aka Crafting Journey, and I will be taking you through the trial of Michael Keatley. This is it was day 2 that I'm covering. I'm also going to cover the what happened, who were the witnesses after the opening statements on day 1, because I didn't cover that yesterday. Yep, got my kitty cats on. This sweater, oh my god, it feels amazing. Oh, just so comfy. So last night, oh my god, I am doing a mystery diamond painting, which means someone purchased this for me. I don't know what it is. It wasn't a mystery kit. It's just a regular diamond painting that she purchased for me. I don't know what it is. My sister covered it up so that I can't see the image. Here's what I've painted so far. That's it. That's all I can see. I don't think there's much more to see than that. Yeah, no idea. I know the artist is Sheena Pike. Still have no idea. Now she does big-eyed girls, which my partner knows that I don't like big-eyed girls, so I don't think it's that. The only other clue is that it is some sort of fantasy painting, but the colors are gorgeous. But when I tell you that this section here last night, I worked on for 3.5 hours, this right in here, 3.5 hours of confetti. If you're not familiar with what confetti is, in that one small section, I used probably all 41 colors. Yeah. But here's what I like. I'm using an art dot, I'm using an art dot storage container, which they just sent this to me. I am an affiliate, and they sent this to me to show off, to try it out, see if I like it, and then show off to you guys. The link to the Art Dot website is down in the description. Now, you can get these off Amazon, but if you use my link and my code, you'll get a discount. It'll take you to the Art Dot website for your purchase. But here's what I liked about it. So I could just pick out, I wrote the DMC number on the top, so I'd pick out the DMC number of what I needed, because like I said, it was really a lot of confetti. And I would just take the lid off, and I'd either stab it just to get one on the pin, or I'd just pour a couple into the lid, the little tiny lid, and then I would just work right out of the lid, pour them back in, put the lid back on, done. So super easy storage container system, and I'm really liking it. Yeah, typically I use the Harbor Freight system, which is okay, but it's cheap plastic, tends to wear out over time, and yeah, you can stab quickly out of those as well. But I'm really enjoying this, and it's double layered. In the bottom layer, I have some ABs that I'm actually not using in this kit. But there are some kits that have many more colors than just what I'm using for this kit. Many more than 41, yes. I have a friend that's doing a painting that has 120 colors. Yeah, not me. Okay, anyway, that's a lot of colors. All right, so that's enough about that. Let's talk about Michael Keatley. Man, yesterday was just a weird day in court. Honestly, there was more bickering between lawyers and judges than and jury than I think I have ever witnessed in a trial. It was just really strange. But I'm first going to talk about what the testimony was the day before, after the opening statements, because they got a lot more testimony in that day. Somebody woke up on the wrong side of the bed yesterday, so I don't know. So the day before, there were 4 witnesses after the prosecution's opening statements. And yes, I should be diamond painting, but it's very difficult to do confetti and talk at the same time. Now, if I were color blocking and multi-placing, that would be a different story. But so we're not going to do that. I'll just talk to you. Anyhow, and I got my coffee and my little doggy cup. And I'm like 5 minutes in, and yes, I've just yammered on. I haven't told you anything substantive. That's the way the show goes. And it's my show. Yes. Okay, the first witnesses were 2 law enforcement officers that were involved in the investigation of the robbery back in January of 2010 of Michael Keeley's purple ice cream van / truck. Both of the law enforcement officers indicated that they were told by Michael Keeley that there were 3 suspects who were black. 2 males, 1 female. The female, he was able to describe the clothing of the female. The black men were wearing hoodies or face masks, so he could not see them. Oh my gosh, my eye itches. And one of the officers admitted on cross-examination that he had never considered that the suspects could be Hispanic, that the Hispanics are also dark complected, and that maybe this could be Hispanics and not black. Never considered that. Good admission. Then we have the ex-girlfriend who testified. Her name is Stacy Rogan. She is Michael Keeley's ex-girlfriend. He had told her to be on the lookout for a man that has a tattoo on his arm that says Creeper. That he was looking for this man. He also told her that he was going to buy a new firearm. Interesting. Then we had a friend of Michael Keeley's, an acquaintance, Brianna Gregory, who was able to identify Michael Keeley. She had a photograph of Michael Keeley at a Halloween party obviously before the shootings that happened on Thanksgiving Day. In that photograph, at the Halloween party, Michael Keeley is wearing a black police t-shirt. Now, isn't that interesting? Okay. Then, now let's go tomorrow, to the next day, which was yesterday, not tomorrow. Okay, the first witness was Ramon Galan. Now, Ramon Galan is one of the surviving victims. He survived his wounds. As you recall, there were 2 people murdered at Thanksgiving morning at 2 a.m. by a lone gunman. The two men that died were Juan and Sergio Gitron. And then there were 4 people that survived: Richard Cantu, Ramon Galan, Gonzalo Rivala, and Daniel Bertrand. So this was Ramon Galan. Now, he described that Juan and Sergio, yes, they're brothers, but they were his cousins. He was at a woman named Rosemary's house, and they were having like a family get-together. There was a lot of people that were there because of Thanksgiving the next day. They were visiting. So at some point during the evening, after Ramon consumes 5 beers, he decides he's going to go with Juan and another friend that he knows really well named Richard. They're going to go over to this house at 604 Ocean Mist Drive to meet up with a whole bunch of other people. He said what would happen is these men would hang out pretty much every weekend playing cards and be at different locations. So the location this time was at the 604 Ocean Mist. He'd never been there before and didn't plan to stay there long because he wanted to go back to the function that was going on at Rosemary's house. So Juan and Richard, they go over to 604 Ocean Mist. That's all in the same neighborhood, but they're in South Hillsborough County, south of Tampa, in an area called, what was it called? Oh my goodness. Ruskin. I should know that. I didn't live in Ruskin, but I lived in Florida. Anyway, so he leaves Rosemary's house with Richard and Juan. They stop at the Chevron gas station and they buy a 6-pack. Now, he's already consumed 5 beers, which for, from a large man, and I wouldn't say he's overly large. He's an average sized man, but for a lot of men, it doesn't even faze them. One beer for me, I'd be inebriated because I'm not used to drinking alcohol. But these men, I assume they are. I mean, my ex-husband would consume a six-pack, you know, not every night. I think he'd have one or two beers a night, but I can see the 5 beers. And he said he was feeling, he wasn't feeling drunk, but he was feeling pretty good, pretty good. So they leave the Chevron, they head over to 604 Ocean Mist Drive. Now, when they pull up, there's a blue car in the driveway. They pull up on the side of the street, and they walk to the left of this blue car, and they approach the house. And all they can see is the front porch light, because everything else is really, really dark. So they head up the steps of the front porch, and on the left side of the porch were all these men gathered, and they were all sitting around, and they were all playing cards. And a lot of them he didn't even know. So he said he never sat down, but he hung out there for about 30 minutes. He consumed another beer, and then at that point, he and Juan and Richard were going to leave again. So he and Richard are standing on the stairs of the front porch waiting for Juan to finish a conversation that he was having with Sergio. And then they were going to leave and go back to Rosemary's. So it's at this point, he's talking to Richard, who's above him on the steps. He's like on the bottom step, and Richard is above him. And all of a sudden, he hears a guy yelling. And he said it was a male voice. He hears a male voice yelling, "Lay down, everybody lay down, give me your ID." And no sooner does he hear this than he hears a gunshot, and he is the first one shot. He says he loses consciousness, and when he wakes up from this being unconscious, the sheriff is already there, the police are already there, the EMTs are already there, and so what he says he saw of the shooter when he turned, after he heard the voice and he turned to look, he said it was so dark, all you could really see was a silhouette of someone. And, he couldn't make out any features of this person. So he said the bullet went into his right arm below the elbow this way, and actually went through and then into his left side and part of it and then out. So not life-threatening injuries, but he was airlifted to the hospital, and he says he spent 2 months in the hospital. He must have had to have several surgeries or something, because that's an awful lot of time to spend in the hospital. He did not describe his injuries in any detail, but so the first witness obviously can identify. He does, he just gives us a little bit more of the flavor of what was going on there. He said no drugs. He says he didn't observe anybody doing drugs in his presence. He wasn't doing drugs. Because the first thing I thought is, why are they going over there? Not that it's relevant. It's really not. But in any case, the prosecution in their opening statement did say the men were doing cocaine. So anyway. But what he did lay the groundwork for was that this was a really dark crime scene. Really, really dark. That you couldn't really see much. You couldn't make much out. The front porch light was it. No street light, nothing else. Very, very dark. And the man that he saw approaching, the silhouette he saw approaching, was kind of, remember I said he entered the property by walking to the left of this blue car? Well, that's where he saw the man, sort of at the rear of that blue car on the left, approaching the house. That's it. That's all he saw. So that's good. So then we have the next person to testify is a crime scene investigator. But before we even get there, okay, no, the next person to testify actually is a friend of Michael Keeley's, an acquaintance. I don't know how friendly, how I don't know if they were good friends, but it's an acquaintance. It's a guy who worked at a place called Anna's Restaurant. Anna is this guy's girlfriend, and he would help her out, and he worked at the restaurant all the time. And Michael Keatley would come in every now and then. He'd say, no, once or twice a month. But it sounds like he would also go to Michael Keatley's home and visit him. He went there a couple of times to make some purchases. I think he bought a lawnmower off of him and some other object. So he had been to Michael Keatley's home. So he was very familiar with Michael Keatley. He had heard about the attack on Michael Keatley from Michael Keatley. But, he says pretty much everybody knew about it. Everybody knows Michael Keatley. He's the ice cream man. He was selling ice cream. He even offered to go into business. He said, let me talk to Anna. I want to go, I'd like to sell my ice cream out of your restaurant. That way people can come to me and I don't have to go to them. And that never happened. So now keep in mind, this incident happened 13 years ago. So this guy really didn't have a really good memory, because so he's asked about Michael's injuries, and he said, well, he couldn't use his right arm. So he would help him out when he would come into the restaurant. When he wasn't helping him in the restroom. Nope. But the guy was right-handed, so good luck wiping yourself. But anyway, so he would help him in the restaurant. He would serve him his food, and if he needed help opening something or cutting up his food or something like that, he says, I didn't feed him, but I helped the guy out. And they would chat. And he said that the guy was obsessed with trying to figure out who robbed him, and that the word on the street was that it was one of the persons involved was an individual named Creeper that went by the name of Creeper, and that Michael wanted revenge. He did not make a secret that he wanted revenge. His recollection was that he used a cane. So I write this down. Oh, he used a cane. That's interesting, And he walked with a limp. So then the prosecutor gets up on. This was brought out on cross-examination by the defense attorney. So then the prosecutor on redirect said, do you recall giving a statement to Officer so-and-so, 13 years ago? And he said, yeah, I talked to him for a little while, and then he recorded me. And, I don't recall the conversation, but yeah, I did that. And she wanted to refresh his recollection about what he said about Michael using a cane 13 years ago. And there's a method to do that. You learn in law school how to refresh someone's recollection, and how, there's a litany that you go through, and you have to show them the transcript or whatever it is you're using to, maybe it's a police report or a medical document to refresh that person's recollection. You show it to them, you have them read it to themselves, then you ask them, does that refresh your recollection? Either it does or it doesn't. Well, there was objections at this point, and whenever there's objections in this trial, they go to the sidebar, and the white noise comes on in the courtroom. If you've never been in a courtroom during a trial, certain courtrooms, they're not all like this, but they have the judge has a button that he will push, and so all the audience hears, or the people in the gallery, or anybody that's not standing right at the judge's desk, hear psh. It's called white noise. That's all you hear. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting. I'm like, oh my God, good Lord. So that ends, the sidebar ends. They come back out. She asks a question. There's an objection. They go sidebar again. And I'm thinking, good Lord, what in the world are they arguing over? What could this testimony possibly be? And how is this so important that we're having this argument? This went on for probably, 20 minutes, half an hour, Finally, the judge stands up and he says, I'm sending the jury out for a break. When I come back from the break, I want somebody to bring me the rules of professional responsibility. And I'm like, ooh, what happened? because that's what governs how law is practiced. And that means he ain't happy with somebody in the way they're practicing the law. So when he comes, he says, we're gonna adjourn for 10 minutes. And he was pissed. And I'm like, ooh, I've never seen this guy raise his voice like this. So he leaves. They come back 10 minutes later, and he's still kind of heated. And he says, if I can get the footage of this, I'm going to show it right here, because here's what happened.
Let me just start off by saying that if there's any debate about whether there are rules of professional conduct and responsibility to apply to all of us in this courtroom, I'm happy to send the jury home for the rest of the day, and we can go through all of them, including the administrative order, which adopts all of them in this circuit. I hope that that's not necessary, but if that is necessary, I'm happy to do it. What brings us to this situation is the argument that ensued about the refreshing of recollection, which is something that is essentially taught in the first year of law school, and debating over the semantics of it, and then sniping at each other and talking over each other, which is just going to end. It's not going to happen anymore, okay? Because if it continues, I'll simply declare a mistrial. That's what I'm going to do. That's my warning, that we all need to be professional. We all need to be careful. Okay, it came up that perhaps the jury can hear what I'm saying from over here, because I talk loud sometimes. I'm not yelling, but I do talk loud. And I don't know that white noise is sufficient. In fact, I'm told that if defense counsel can hear it, that perhaps the jury can hear the discussions at the bench. So there's a fix for that too. We can send the jury out every time there's a need to approach, and we'll eliminate any possibility of the jury overhearing what we're discussing at the bench. What also adds to the problem is the number of people that approach the bench, who some may be talking to me, some may be talking to each other, some may be talking to other people, and it creates a problem. So, also pursuant to the administrative order, I have the ability to impose additional rules in the courtroom that may address responsibility and professionalism of attorneys. And so I am going to announce a rule that we are going to follow from this point forward. Only one representative from each side will be permitted to approach the bench. If that person requests an opportunity to go back to the table to discuss with someone else, I will allow it. But we're only going to have one person at the bench at a time from this point forward. Now, we're going to go back to the witness that was on the stand and the refreshing of recollection, and I am going to allow the state to identify whatever the object is. That was his question. That's what brought us to this. He asked, when the state asked whether his recollection was refreshed, whether that was a transcript of the recording. And I'm going to ask you all first to tell me if you agree that it is or it is not. That's something very simple that the attorneys outside the presence of the jury can make a determination on. It either is or it isn't.
And he talks a little bit about why it happened. So apparently when they went sidebar, it was the two lawyers that were sniping at each other and some other lawyers. And that happens a lot, where the second chairs will also go up. They want to hear what it is. Or maybe it's the second chair that's examining the witness, so the first chair goes up. That's what they call if there's two lawyers trying a case, there's the main lawyer, he's the first chair, and then there's the second lawyer, the second chair. Then there could be other associates that are helping out. So what the judge ultimately ends up doing is saying, here's how this is gonna go. And he's warning them. If this happens, if this sniping continues, I'm going to send the jury out and declare a mistrial. You've been warned. I'm like, ooh, okay. So here's what the testimony was. Apparently, 13 years ago, this guy told the investigator that he never saw Michael Keatley use a cane, and he didn't walk with a limp. The defense did not want this to come out, so it comes out. Wow. Yeah. So then the afternoon was a crime scene investigator, and they talked about shell casings and projectiles that were found at the property. There was photos shown of the property at 604 Ocean Mist Drive. So that was the afternoon. They didn't get a lot of testimony in. There was some other stuff as well going on with the jurors. There was one juror who kept falling asleep. So the judge had told everybody to kind of watch him. He says, I'm going to watch him. And if I see it, then he would just he'd say to the jury, let's stand up and stretch for a minute. Okay, let's all stand up. And that's how that went. Then the same guy who was falling asleep, he got the judge's attention. He wanted to let everybody know that he thought he saw somebody that had been in the photo lineup was in the courtroom. And so the judge told him, hey, listen, there's nobody in this courtroom that's a witness. And you did not see anybody that was in the photo lineup. I don't know who you saw, but it, that wasn't him. Then there was a female juror who had a concern. Oh, one of the experts that's going to testify in this case to Michael Keatley's injuries is a doctor called Richard Halpern. And I know him. I've used him as an expert. He's an orthopedic doctor, and I've used him as an expert. Well, this woman had him as her treating doctor. So they just asked her, are you able to, put aside, are you going to give him any extra weight because he was your treating doctor? And she's like, no, I'll treat him like any other witness and determine his credibility and blah, blah, blah. And so that was that. No jurors were dismissed, but crazy drama yesterday. Crazy drama. This case is really, it's going to last forever at this rate. That's what I kept thinking. My God, if they keep going sidebar, we're never going to get done with this case. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So that's the testimony from yesterday. I got my crime calendar back out. It kind of got buried under the Murdaugh case. Oh, by the way, if you're still following the Murdaugh case, Randy Murdaugh finally spoke out. Randall Murdaugh is Alex Murdaugh's older brother. Now, we heard John Marvin testify, and apparently Randy Murdaugh was on the witness list but did not testify. He was not called. And he was not in the courtroom very much. Now, Randy worked in the same law firm as Alex Murdaugh. And Randy is the one that, remember, the checks got mixed up and Alex cashed Randy's check and then, the whole thing. And then he had to pay it back. So apparently Randy's still kind of pissed at him for stealing money from him and the law firm and has not spoken to his brother in over a year. And he believes that his brother was involved in the murder, but knows more about it than what he's saying. That's what he believes, that he's probably still lying. So, interesting. All is not honky-dory in the Murdaugh family right now. All right, what day is it? Oh my gosh, I've missed a lot here. Holy moly. It is March 8th. I missed all these days. What the heck? All right. Snagged on Snapchat. Oh, we know how important these videos are, don't we? Let's talk about this. In March 2015, Fairfield, Maine resident Christopher Wallace was on the lam. Okay. Authorities wanted to question him in connection with a burglary that had happened earlier that year. While in hiding, Wallace learned a hard lesson. Don't evade and don't do Snapchat. Alex Murdaugh learned that lesson. Wallace first posted on Snapchat to announce that he had returned to his house. People contacted police to tip them off, but when authorities arrived at Wallace's house, they couldn't find him anywhere. Until he posted again. This time Wallace let his followers know that the police were searching his house and he was hiding in a cabinet. Police were alerted again and began searching the kitchen cabinets until they came upon a pair of feet. Wallace was arrested along with a housemate who had insisted she hadn't seen him in months. Are people God. I guess the answer to that is yes. Oh my gosh. What did we miss? Let's see if there's anything we want to go back and look. Oh, Salem witch trials. What? Not really. Not really. Poisoned eye drops? Oh my goodness, that sounds like a good one. Maybe I'll save these. Yeah, we'll do them during the live one day or something. Okay. So tomorrow's an interesting one. Sex trafficking. Yeah. All right, guys. That is the show for what I started to say Monday. Wednesday, March 8th. I just looked at the calendar. I should know this. Tonight I will be live at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And I'm going to put all this stuff away and I'm going to get out the watercolors. The ones that I just purchased from Craftably to help save their company. And these are in tubes instead of little half pans. And you guys don't know what the heck that means. But tune in at 6:30 and watch me test these new watercolors out. So I will see you then. Have a great day. If I don't see you then, I'll see you tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. Bye.